Hi, everybody. Welcome back to day two, REA. It is my delight and pleasure to facilitate this session. My name is Michael Toy. And today I have the great privilege of introducing Dr. Emily Kahm. Dr. Emily Kahm is an associate professor of theology at the College of St. Mary in Omaha, Nebraska, which is a women's college particularly dedicated to enrolling first-generation students, single mothers, and undocumented students. Her research areas include anything related to bodies as they're understood in Christianity, especially regarding sexuality, disability, and fat phobia. Dr. Kahm is also a licensed Zumba instructor and teaches free body-inclusive Zumba classes on her campus in hopes of allowing faculty, staff, and students to connect with the goodness of their bodies in a compassionate environment. Today, this demonstration will involve leading participants in a 20-minute seated Zumba class in order to facilitate discussion on how theological conversations around body image and the religious value of bodies can be enriched by the experience of joyful movement. Examples of how to incorporate playful, satisfying movement into religious teaching on, for example, muscular Christianity or fatphobia in religious spaces will be offered, along with opportunities to discuss each participant's experience of dancing. With that, I hand it over to Dr. Kahm.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you all for being here. Not only in a time that for some of your time zones is probably less than convenient, but also thank you for deciding to come to a session that is notably a little different than most of the rest on the schedule. I really appreciate REA deciding this year to open up the possibility of demonstrations. Because obviously the online space is incredible in terms of accessibility, but sometimes we might miss certain things that we also appreciate in terms of being physically present and not just talking heads to each other. So today is going to be a little bit of dancing, a little bit of wiggling around and feeling awkward. But primarily, that's going to be a jumping off point to discuss the ways in which moving our bodies joyfully can help religious educators in particular think through how to engage not just the body, but the mind, and sometimes the body and the mind together when they are instructing students. So, actually, I should have checked this earlier. How is my volume? How is audio in general? Okay, great. Well, let me just talk to you for maybe 5 minutes before we start dancing, because if I wait longer than that, all of you will get nervous and leave. So just very, very quickly, are we able to see that? There it goes. Alrighty. So again, my presentation is on joyful bodies and joyful body movement and how this has been an important resource for me as a theology professor, and through an experiment that I have been running on my campus for about a year and a half at this point, where I'm teaching body positive Zumba. So before we begin, I would just like you to take a moment to take a breath and to feel your body self. We've been doing a lot of sitting today. We've been doing a lot of staring and screening and thinking. How is your body feeling? And I would invite you to go ahead in the chat if you if you are able to, and if you're willing to throw out a word or a phrase that's describing how your body is feeling right now. Might be great, might be terrible. Honesty is what we're going for more than anything else. Someone says nuts. I know that feeling. I also have small children, and they really know that feeling. There's some discomfort, there's some burdensomeness, there's some tightness. Ooh, craving dancing. I'm very excited about that. Again, we spend quite a lot of time on our rear ends, and in this zone of trying to use our brains, but sometimes ignoring the meat sacks that we come in. So, my hope is that how you're feeling will shift a little bit over time, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, but just that we can be a little bit more aware of our body self while we're in this space together for this next hour. So, just to give you the tiniest tablespoon of background, in case you've never heard the word Zumba or I've never participated in it, I wanted to at least let you know what the word means so that you have an idea of where it's coming from. So, Zumba is just a brand, effectively, for a sort of dance aerobics style workout class. So, Beto Perez, the man with the beard who's portrayed there, was the Colombian fitness professional who originated it. It was invented effectively because he forgot to bring his playlist to a workout that he was supposed to be leading and then just turned on music that he personally liked. It is focused on Latin style music. So classically, a Zumba class is always going to include salsa and cumbia and merengue and reggaeton. But in recent years in particular, it has gone significantly more international than that. So while Zumba is still very much rooted in Colombian heritage and Latin music, now there's much more usage of Afro beats, of K-pop, some Punjabi music, just a little bit of everything that's trying to recognize that Zumba is a broader community internationally. So the music is a starting point, but the joy of Zumba, the reason I like Zumba, the reason I've started doing Zumba is because it does feel different than how many Westerners think about working out. Oftentimes, workouts are uncomfortable. They are unpleasant. There are counts, there are scores, there are standards. I want to burn this many calories. I want to do this many reps. Zumba does not emphasize that kind of calculation, I guess so. I have found it to be accessible for a variety of levels. I am a fat woman who does not easily move in certain exercise ways, but I found that Zumba is flexible enough to mean that you can participate to your own level. Also, you'll see that today as we are doing a more seated version of this. Normally, Zumba is taught standing, but I've been spending some time over the past year or so trying to develop more seated options as part of accessibility for folks who use wheelchairs, deal with paralysis, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, that sort of thing. So there's nothing particularly magic about Zumba today. That it's just an example of a joyful movement that I have found relevant and helpful. But I hope that our conversation will be much more expansive than that, about any time that we move our bodies and feel joy in that space. So, are we ready to dance? A little bit of a loaded question. Okay. So, warning on this one. First off, I'm going to be playing audio, and I'm also going to be scooching way back here so you can see what I'm doing. Awkwardly scooching back up here. Zumba is just sort of follow the leader style. So I'll do a thing, you kind of try to imitate it to whatever degree you personally like. A couple of tips to be sure. One is to double check your space around you. If there's anything particularly breakable or spillable or precious nearby, you might want to scooch it off to the side a wee bit so you don't accidentally whack it. Basically, if you can put your arms all the way out and if you can put your arms all the way up, you're pretty much good. There will be a little bit of leaning side to side if you'd like. Because we are seated, having a strong base is going to be kind of important. So you will want to sort of check your seat. If you sit farther back in your chair, you're going to have a little bit more stability. If you sit a little bit more forward in your chair, you're going to have more movement and a little bit more core engagement. So it's again kind of a choose your own adventure on that one. Um, what was the last thing I was going to mention? I hope that you feel comfortable being just a little bit silly. This is not a type of dance that invites great. This is not ballroom dancing. This is not ballet. We are not going for maximal aesthetic appeal. We're trying to have a good old time. So, being a little goofy, laughing at yourself, laughing at others gently, all highly encouraged. For those of you who are comfortable turning on cameras, that's a lot of fun for me to see other people moving. But for those of you where turning on your camera is going to make you really self-aware in a way that's not fun, keep it turned off. So again, you get to choose your own path through this. We will spend about 20 minutes moving. Uh, and then after that, we will spend a little bit of recap time talking through how this has been important for me as a theology professor and a religious educator. So we feeling ready for this? Okay, I'm going to play audio, and our tests have indicated that it's kind of loud. So you might want to just scooch down your audio for a moment until we get it all set. All right, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to do that before I start playing things. And then I'm just going to go audio off. I will not be using a microphone, so it's all communication with the body for the next 20 minutes. All right, do people have their audio adjusted? Okay. Quick test. Are we all hearing it? We're hearing music? Oh, we got some that aren't. Okay, hang on. Let me try one more time about sharing sound. All right, let me try this one more time. And just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it and a thumbs down if you cannot. Let me go ahead and turn off my mic and let's dance.
Solita, tú a mí me buscaste, ya no quiero soltarte, pa' que me va la colita, ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, sé que quieres bailarme, pa' que me va la colita, ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, ya no quiero soltarte, pa' que me va la colita, ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, sé que quieres bailarme, rompe cadera, rompe cadera, rompe cadera. Rompe cadera, 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 rompe, 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 rompe cadera, pa' que me va la colita. Ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, ya no quiero soltarte, pa' que me va la colita, ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, sé que quieres bailarme, pa' que me va la colita, ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, ya no quiero soltarte, pa' que me va la colita, ella la rompe solita, tú a mí me buscaste, sé que quieres bailarme, rompe cadera, rompe cadera, rompe cadera. Rompe cadera, 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 rompe, 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 rompe cadera, rompe cadera. gozando. Déjame ver tu cinturita meneando. Esa boquita me está matando. Amanecemos juntos bailando y la pista está que quema. Tú tienes fuego, tú eres candela. De todas las baby, tú eres mi nena. Y ese movimiento me acelera. Mano arriba, mano arriba. Fast wine, fast wine. Hey, move your body, move your body. Shake, shake, shake. Come on, baby, move your body. 'Cause we're gonna start the party. Como tú mueves esa bola, la gente se descontrola. Come on, baby, move your body. Come on, baby, move your body. 'Cause we're gonna start the party. Como tú mueves esa bola, la gente se descontrola. Come on, baby, move your body. On your body, girl, let's move. Alright, alright. I want it now, I want it now. Dale, baby, no pare, que bailando se cura los males. Tú y yo no somos oficiales, pero entendemos todas las señales. Por ti yo cruzo los mares, te busco en todos los bares. De España hasta Buenos Aires, no hay nada que nos separe. Mano arriba, mano arriba. Fast wine, fast wine. Hey, move your body, move your body. Shake, shake, shake. Come on, baby, move your body. 'Cause we're gonna start the party. Como tú mueves esa bola, la gente se descontrola. Come on, baby, move your body. Come on, baby, move your body. 'Cause we're gonna start the party. Como tú mueves esa bola, la gente se descontrola. Come on, baby, move your body. On your body, girl, let's move. Alright, alright. I want it now, I want it now. Wine to the cup. Oh my God, that's just too dirty. Pull up the crowd and get wild. Baseline heavy, make the girl them smile. Vibes scan done, we are on the profile. Turn up the heat, me say act like the eye. Select a spin it, girl a broke out the real. Baseline magic, them a twist like a wheel. High grade puffing and me dip on a seal. Dance floor mash up, energy can't conceal. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Broke out girl, make the rhythm nice. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Whole place mash, everybody leave. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Broke out girl, make the rhythm nice. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Whole place mash, everybody leave. Girl, them a flex, them a know say me ready. The energy low, can't keep it steady. Drop it low, girl, make it bounce like jelly. Bad man thing, vibe sweet like cherry. Stepping at the club, me and me whole crew. Good music play, that'll make me feel new. Baddest girl a wine, them a stick like glue. Lyric sharp, the rhythm a cut through. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Broke out girl, make the rhythm nice. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Whole place mash, everybody leave. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Broke out girl, make the rhythm nice. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Whole place mash, everybody leave. Oh my God, that's just too dirty. Pull up the crowd and get wild. Baseline heavy, make the girl them smile. Vibes scan done, we are on the profile. Turn up the heat, me say act like the eye. Select a spin it, girl a broke out the real. Baseline magic, them a twist like a wheel. High grade puffing and me dip on a seal. Dance floor mash up, energy can't conceal. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Broke out girl, make the rhythm nice. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Whole place mash, everybody leave. Watch this, pull up the vibes. Broke out girl, make the rhythm sangoloteo. Bend your back, sangoloteo. Make it clap, sangoloteo. Bend and go down, girl, cock your back. Tick-tock, sangoloteo. Bend your back, sangoloteo. Make it clap, sangoloteo. Bend and go down, girl, cock your back. Jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it, girl, jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it, girl, jiggle it, 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 girl, jiggle it, 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 Bad Latinos I know, Gala Panama and Puerto Rico. Where the girl them from El Salvador, Mexican girls skin up on the floor. Girls, sangoloteo, your body look good, sangoloteo. You got a cute face, sangoloteo. Wind up your waist, sangoloteo. Body girl when I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. No say you tight and I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. Body girl when I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. No say you tight and I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. Sangoloteo, bend your back, sangoloteo. Make it clap, sangoloteo. Bend and go down, girl, cock your back. Tick-tock, sangoloteo. Bend your back, sangoloteo. Make it clap, sangoloteo. Bend and go down, girl, cock your back. Jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it, girl, jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it, girl, jiggle it, 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 girl, jiggle it, 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 back. Bad Latinos I know, Gala Panama and Puerto Rico. Where the girl them from El Salvador, Mexican girls skin up on the floor. Girls, sangoloteo. Your body look good, sangoloteo. You got a cute face, sangoloteo. Wind up your waist, sangoloteo. Body girl when I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. No say you tight and I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. Body girl when I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. No say you tight and I'm good on low, lo 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 lo. Tick-tock, sangoloteo. Bend your back, sangoloteo. Make it clap, sangoloteo. Bend and go down, girl, cock your back. Tick-tock, sangoloteo. Bend your back, sangoloteo. Make it clap, sangoloteo. Bend and go down, girl, cock your back. Jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it, girl, jiggle it, jiggle it, jiggle it, girl, jiggle it, 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 girl, jiggle it, 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 back.
Joe, tamo junto e misturado. William Estudante, Mauro Catarino, Thiago da Silva, Joe, brá!
2, 3, Brasil!
Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Bate o pé, 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 pé. E bate a mão, 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 mão. E bate o pé, 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 pé. E bate a mão, 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 mão. Stop! Hey, hey, levanta a mão, no paredão. Hey, hey, levanta a mão, no paredão. Hey, hey, levanta a mão, no paredão. Hey, hey, levanta a mão. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, dança do jeitinho dela. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, no debol de favela. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, dança do jeitinho dela. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, no debol de favela.
1, 2, 3, Brasil!
Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Chama tua amiga aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembão de favela. Bate o pé, 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 pé. E bate a mão, 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 mão. E bate o pé, 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 pé. E bate a mão, 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 mão. Stop! Hey, hey, levanta a mão, no paredão. Hey, hey, levanta a mão. passinho, dança do jeitinho dela. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, no dembow de favela. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, dança do jeitinho dela. Cruza no ombrinho, joga no passinho, no dembow de favela.
1, 2, 3, Brasil!
E bate o pé na tua amiga, aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembow de favela. Chama tua amiga, aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembow de favela. Chama tua amiga, aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembow de favela. Chama tua amiga, aquela louca Manuela, aquela louca do dembow de favela. E bate o pé, 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 pé. E bate a mão, 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 mão. E bate o pé, 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 pé. E bate a mão, 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 mão. Stop! Willi Estudante, Mauro Catarina e Thiago da Silva, Joe. Dembow de favela. Stop!
I saw you there, looking so good tonight. I swear to God I'm dying to kiss you. My heart FP, it's beating so, so fast. I didn't know how much that I need you. You're getting closer and now my legs have started shaking. Would be delicious to have a taste of you right now. If I could try, it would make me so psychotic. For that addiction I will need a rehab. Papacito, ay qué rico tú. I want you all, not just for a little. Touching your body, it's my desire. Please don't be mad si me le robo un besito. Y es que quiero algo más que suene más oficial. Hacerte mi propiedad y no quiero que se me haga atardecer. No está mal, lo que hacemos es genial. Fatigo en la Polaroid, te la dejo pa' que me recuerdes. I'm gonna hold you so, so tight. It's my deseo, I'm gonna be your Juliet and you my Romeo. 'Cause no one love you like me. With you I feel so lucky. Baby, te quiero pa' mí. Love me hard with sentimiento. Stay together and live la vida loca. Let's go and live it with no regrets and shadows. For that addiction I will need a rehab. Papacito, ay qué rico tú. I want you all, not just for a little. Touching your body, it's my desire. Please don't be mad si me le robo un besito. Ay, amor, you're my dream come true. Papacito, ay qué rico tú. Te quiero pa' mí, no por ratico. Desear tu cuerpo es mi delito. No se me enoja si le robo un besito.
Georgina, bebé divina, como fascinas, todo mi mundo lo ilumina. Georgina, bebé divina, como fascinas, esa carita me domina. Bromista avispada como nadie, no sufre de pena. Yo, no le importa comerse mi comida aunque ya esté llena. Es mi fiel compañera, inseparable como mar y arena. Y es mi mayor fortuna que mi sangre corra por sus venas. Georgina, bebé divina, como fascinas, todo mi mundo lo ilumina. Georgina, bebé divina, cómo fascinas, esa carita me domina. Georgina, Georgina, todo mi mundo iluminas. Georgina, esa carita me domina. Porchada, relajada, observadora, la que me desvela. La que me desvela. Llegaste y le enseñaste a compartir a tu hermana Antonella. No le temes a nada, vas por la vida como pasarela. El ala, y con tantas locuras que vivo, ustedes me nivelan. Georgina, bebé divina, como fascinas, todo mi mundo lo ilumina. Georgina, bebé divina, como fascinas, esa carita me domina. Georgina, todo mi mundo iluminas. Georgina, esa carita me domina.
Te soñé mirando las estrellas, un día de luna llena. Todo conspiró, el universo fluyó. Y ahora mi familia somos abuelita, Anto, tú y yo. A través de ti descubro que en la vida hay más color. Me enseñaste a descubrir más lenguajes del amor. Te enseñaré a navegar la vida con barquitos de papel. Y si un día no estoy en este mundo, en tu estrella me convertiré.
Te amo, hija.
All right, that was our playlist. I will give you a couple of minutes to do any rearranging of yourself that you might need. I need a towel, personally, because it is pretty hot in Omaha and my air conditioning only just came on. Also, great time for fluids. Listening to our body is important. Just go ahead and give yourself a minute or two to recombobulate, and then I will start talking again. Whoever's transferring to my school, you are more than welcome. Right. I am going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint again. Do you all see 4 different people stretching out? Awesome. So now we want to check back in with those bodies. So your body might be feeling very similar to what it was 20 minutes ago. It might be really, really different. It might be better. It might be worse. Some of those movements, that's a lot of upper back when most of our upper backs have been doing this for a lot of time. So if you feel comfortable with that, I would love it if you'd go ahead and drop a word or a phrase or a sentence in the chat to tell me how your body is feeling right now. Got some flow, we've got some energy, got some warmth. That's not hard to find where I am, just open the window, but looser is definitely nice. Some gratitude, I appreciate that. I didn't know my arms could hurt. Yeah, the first time I ever did seated Zumba, I thought it would be easier than standing Zumba, and in fact, it was harder because I was not used to this part of my body doing all of the work. Definitely hydrate today and give yourself a little stretch out in about an hour to make sure that nothing locks up on you. We've got some more stretched and refreshed. I am very happy for that. And once again, I need to say thank you for being willing to do something a little strange and a little silly, especially those of you who were able to keep your cameras on. I'm sure there was also a little bit of desync between my video and my music. So just rolling with it, even when somebody is off beat, is not always the easiest thing. So thank you for your patience and your willingness to give it a shot anyway. All right, so what I want to do next is a little bit of storytelling. So why? Why are we doing Zumba at the Religious Education Association annual meeting? It's a really good question. One that I tried to make an argument for, but this requires a little bit of a backstory. So let me tell you the tale of what I've been learning from my students as a theology professor here at the College of St. Mary. So I teach a course here called Bodies in Christian Theology, where we look at bodies, human meat sacks, our physical selves, and what Christian theology has said about bodies over time and in different spaces, different kinds of bodies, different shapes, sizes, races, etc., where Christianity has promoted love and kindness, and also where Christianity has promoted great harm. I tell my students that Christianity is not the hero of a class like Bodies in Christianity, but it's also not a villain. It's one more layer to many different cultures that are wrapped around our body selves and how we regard ourselves. So we do a little bit of everything in this class. First off, we're looking across the Christian traditions. So we're looking at Catholicism, evangelicalism, mainline Protestantism, sometimes a little bit of Orthodoxy, but I generally keep my courses focused on types of Christianity that are most prominent in the United States. And we also look at everything regarding bodies. We talk about makeup and whether or not it is Christian to wear makeup. Most of my students are spiritually undeclared, I guess I would say. But basically, all of them have thought about makeup and whether or not they should wear it and why. Again, it's a women's college that I teach at. We talk about menstruation and what it means to have a body that goes through menstrual rhythms and how people feel about the fact that their body cycles, or in some cases, the fact that their body doesn't cycle. We talk about fatphobia and the general cultural idea that the smaller a female body is, the better it is, and the larger it is, the less desirable it is. We talk at length about sex and sexuality. We talk at length about disability. It's kind of everything. So it's a very vulnerable class in many ways, but it's also usually a very moving class because students don't necessarily, my students who are not necessarily from the Christian tradition, they don't particularly care sometimes when we talk about scriptural texts that don't have relevance or authority for them, but they do care about what counts as dressing modestly and who makes that determination and what their mom says versus what their grandmama says versus what their friends say. So even when the theology is not the center point of the conversation, all of these conversations have weight. So one of the ways that I help students do that reflective work is I give them, they're called body journals, but they are reflective writing assignments where they have to do something with their body and then use that experience to talk about things that we've talked about in class. And usually I give them a wide variety. Okay, let's talk about skin and skin tone particularly. So you can go try to get your foundation makeup match at a local makeup store and see if you can find makeup that looks good on your skin. You can give yourself a facial and talk about why you do or don't engage in skincare. One of the options that I put on a list that was actually supposed to be a filler option because I didn't think anyone would do it was you can stand naked in front of your mirror for several days in a row at various, for short periods of time, several days in a row, and write about the thoughts that you have when you look at yourself. I truly thought that no, I had offered them a facial. I said, you can go scrub your feet and give yourself a pedicure. And instead, I had dozens of students decide to look at themselves and tell me about it. It was a little surprising to me in the first couple of years how raw and how honest those conversations became when it was just between me and them. And what I found was that when it came to intellectual knowledge, students were absolutely confident that bodies are good, all different kinds of bodies are good, different shapes are good, everybody looks different, and that's wonderful, except when it came to their own body. That's where all the goodness of the body ended. They could be kind about everyone else's body, but oftentimes they were not just critical of themselves, at times they loathe themselves, which was a hard thing to hold when I wasn't expecting it. Because I'm fat, because I have always been somewhat outside of the category of conventional Western attractiveness, I had kind of assumed that some of my students who were very conventionally attractive didn't have body image issues. I was profoundly wrong. It was not even close. Sometimes it was my students who were the most athletic, the tiniest bodied, who spoke the most harshly about themselves. Just to give one example of a story, I had a student who wrote twice the length that I had asked her to write for this assignment. She overwrote the assignment by doubling it. And 2 of the 3 pages she wrote were entirely about her own rear end and why it was not round enough. And it was funny in its own way, but also it really let me think, what would you be thinking? What new thoughts would you have? What new things would you do if you weren't so concerned about how round your butt is? But that's where her mind was. So, this was my call. This was my harsh reminder that what people intellectually affirm and what they actually believe in their heart don't always match. And you can teach the brain and you can teach the heart, but sometimes you need to teach them with slightly different techniques. I do tell them at the beginning of the class that it's not a neutral class. I do hope, or at least want to create space for the idea that bodies are inherently worthy of kindness. And I want to create space for the idea that they do not have to earn feeling good about themselves, that their bodies are more than just something to control or punish. It's not my place to enforce those kind of beliefs, but I feel like the broader cultural conversation is one that is so punitive for many of my students around, especially female bodies, that just opening that little other door creates space for different kinds of thinking. So that's where this all begins, with a lot of students being remarkably vulnerable in their homework about how much they hate their bodies, which is a hard thing to read. So where does Zumba come in? Because that's a little bit out of left field. Here's a picture of me looking not dignified, because that is not the point of Zumba. Dignity is something we leave kind of at the door. Zumba, like I said, is not magical. It is not the one correct way to do joyful movement. It was just my way into trying to offer something else to my students besides a world and a culture that says your body is never good enough. What I like about it, compared to yoga, compared to lifting, compared to lots of other ways that people might intentionally move their body, was first off that it's quick. All of you will have noticed that a little bit, that there is kind of a lot going on. So it's not that you can't think, but oftentimes you're fully engaged rather than wondering about something else. If you've ever done yoga, you might have had an experience where you're in a pose and you're just sort of still in that pose, and then you just start thinking about groceries. And that's what we're trying to avoid a little bit, because sometimes getting too in your head when you're moving can take you out of the experience. I like Zumba because it is a little bit silly. I tried to keep it a little bit toned down for this particular session, but there is some goofiness, there is some booty popping, there is some shimmying, if people want to do it. And for them to see me do that as their theology professor, normally I'm a little bit more buttoned up in class, it creates a new kind of vulnerability between the two of us. I am looking not pretty and I am doing silly things, and that offers them space to say, you don't have to be worried about your image here in a way that you are often worried about your image and how people are seeing you in every other space. And again, I like it because it doesn't feel like a traditional workout. I work at a school where about half of our students are also student athletes, and they are very familiar with repetitions, gains, and the way that they have to quantify the way that their body works. They are supposed to be hitting certain standards, or they're supposed to be coming back to where they were. And I wanted to avoid that sense of having to put numbers on what your experience was. I also never required this. So Zumba is something I offer outside. I do offer extra credit for students who would like to attend it, but it's not something that people must do. It's something that I invite them to. It's something that I repeatedly invite them to. And sometimes I offer stickers and snacks and other things that will help them feel even more invited. But again, there's something of vulnerability there. There is me being willing to be vulnerable so that they can also step into a space where they don't know what's going to happen, and maybe it will go well. I already said this. I don't look dignified. I teach both at my college and at a local gym, the YMCA. And I tell people you never have to worry about looking or feeling self-conscious in a class that I teach, because I am sweating profusely, and I am turning fascinating colors of reddish violet that most human beings should never see. I don't look good when I'm dancing, but that's not the point. I'm having fun. And for them to see someone who is in their late 30s doing that sometimes can help invite people who are in their teens or 20s into that same space. For me, when I know that a Zumba class is going well, is the first point that I hear somebody giggle. And this is one of those places where I will especially be interested to hear from folks who primarily work with children, because we may know that once they get to the teenage and young adult years, there's a certain sense of having to carry themselves in a particular way, of being a little bit serious or a little bit intentional or a little bit sarcastic or world weary that they might perform. When they start laughing, whether it's at themselves or at their friend who has just decided to drop it low to the floor in a way that is fascinating, or even at me, I know that we've gone somewhere useful because we have gotten out of work mode and we are now playing. We are now being silly. We are now trying to have fun more than we are trying to do any one thing perfectly or well. So that is the Zumba story. Double check my time here. All right. How has this changed the way that I am as a professor? So when I did the Zumba, when I started my Zumba courses, I was able to fund them through a Wabash grant. I was able to do some research, and I was able to find that students and faculty and staff who came often spoke more kindly about their bodies after Zumba than they did before. So that was an encouraging thing for me to say, okay, if we can do a little bit of silly, if we can be a little bit out of our comfort zones, then maybe people can find joy in their bodies rather than just thinking about everything that's wrong with them. But I can't teach Zumba every day that I'm trying to teach theology, or at least not at the same time. They take up different kinds of space. So what have I changed in the classroom now that I know that introducing students to the idea that bodies are good might require letting them be in their bodies? Well, there's kind of the standards, and I think many, many people try these sorts of things in classrooms, or have used them in their own life, to let students have a second to say, how are you feeling right now? And to name it, to write it down, to tell somebody else about it, to honor the fact that they are not just brains that are being carted around, they are an entire body self. So sometimes that comes with, all right, I want to focus on a part of your body that feels good. I want you to look for a color that you think is especially lovely. I want you to massage your hands for a second. All of those kinds of being in your physical space, I find can help students recenter a little bit. I love to incorporate drawing and crafts into my class, which is not something that is maybe suitable to all levels. And I think many people would probably argue is not necessarily suitable for undergraduates who I teach. But I see so much benefit in it that I'm willing to be a little silly in my classroom if it allows them to be in their space. So when I have the chance, we do a discussion on modesty where I give them all paper dolls and tell them to get them dressed. No one has to be doing a great job, but they get to pull out their thousand colors of highlighters and just scribble for a while. It feels childish, but in a very good and wholesome way. And again, they're in their bodies. They're doing something that isn't just thinking, memorizing, and trying to write things down. I've worked, this has been difficult in my classrooms, but I'm working continuously to try to figure out ways to let my students be moving. For one example is I just tell them if you have needs to take care of, you're not going to learn anything in my class if you're sitting there just thinking about how badly you need to pee. Get up, go to the bathroom, come back. I promise you, the entire rest of the class is going to make more sense. But you have to pay attention to those things. Get that drink, move around, wiggle a little bit, stretch, go to a different part of the room. That's perfectly fine in my classrooms because your bodies need to find a certain kind of homeostasis before your brain's going to be working at its best. And this one I have to say is with context. I have integrated short naps. If anyone is familiar with Tricia Hersey, who sometimes refers to herself as the Nap Bishop, she is the author of Rest as Resistance, a wonderful book, a womanist kind of theology, talking about how resting one's body is fuel for resisting some of the oppressions and some of the pains of a racist and a consumerist kind of culture. So when we read her, I tell everybody they got to put their heads down for 10 minutes. And some of them do fall asleep. Actually, quite a lot of them fall asleep. A lot of them are working at major nap deficits. But then we can have a conversation about, do you ever rest? And if so, when? And if not, why not? What is it about your body that doesn't deserve rest? Or what forces are telling you that resting is lazy or problematic versus something that your body inherently needs? So those are just a few examples, and I do want to make sure that we've got a little bit of space and time if other people want to share. So I have a few questions that and people are welcome to pick up on if these cue anything in you. And I'd also be delighted just to hear your reactions and reflections. I'm curious if you have any kind of intentional movement that is part of your life. And is it about goals? Is it about specific outcomes? Or is it about enjoyment or fun or a combination? I'm curious what kinds of discussions you might have heard in religious spaces about bodies and whether bodies are something that needs to be carefully managed and disciplined versus bodies that need to be enjoyed and experienced. Is feeling good good or bad? And how have religious context formed that for you? I'm curious, again, especially those of you who teach younger groups, how do you have your learners connect to their bodies intentionally? Or in what ways do they do it automatically, whether or not you say they should? And if there would be any pushback or resistance to you being more body focused in your classroom. I had to overcome my own sort of fear of being not taken seriously as an academic when I'm bringing in piles of markers and crafts. But again, the results were worth it. So I had to, my own resistance was part of my problem there. So with that, I will open it up. If anyone wants to jump in to chat or make comments or questions during audio, that would be marvelous.
Thanks so much, Dr. Kahm. I really appreciate what you've brought into the space. We've got about 4 minutes for questions. If you want to either raise your hand in the chat or raise your hand on the Zoom, raise your hand physically, just speak up or pop it in the chat. That would be great. I see it in the chat. China. Oh, China, go ahead.
Dr. Kahm, I think this is needed in so many contexts. And while we're moving, my God, I felt the Holy Spirit. While we're moving our bodies, there is like it transcends, and it's as if the spirit and the body become one. And
Mm,
so the invitation for liberation then becomes possible if we can allow the spirit and body just to have a conversation. So I thank you for that. I couldn't stop smiling. So my inner China was just like, yay, yay. And so I really
thank
thank you.
you.
I also do work on misogynoir and fat phobia. So yeah, I'd love to keep in contact with you.
Let us
Thank you.
connect. Thank you
Okay.
for that. You said that so powerfully, the idea that the spirit and the body can be one as opposed to separated.
Yeah.
And Belma. Oh, I'm not hearing you. I think you're still muted.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. So thank you for the session. I enjoyed it very much. I'm just going to try and answer these questions as simply as possible. So, intentional movement, I'm trying to sit down on the floor. As a
Oh.
child, we spent a lot of time on the floor. But then now I realize I can't sit on the floor or stand up. And for me, that's like, especially when I visit India and we have to sit down and have this delicious biryani. I
Mm,
can't sit and eat. Somebody has to get me a chair. So
mm,
I want to enjoy the fun of sitting cross-legged and eating. So yeah, that. And here, dancing and doing the exercise is like, it's so natural, as though
mm.
it's there inside and we're bringing out. We become so much like well behaved, trying to be well behaved by being stiff or something.
Yes.
um, well, I'm from India, so this second question is uh, for as a woman, as a girl child growing up in India, we had to keep it all covered, and if you exposed even a little bit, it was whether in the church or outside,
Mm,
you were inviting trouble.
mm,
So the society would pick you and do all kinds of things. So the trauma, I think, for many of us, especially coming from where I come, I'm not saying entire India is that. My culture, my specific community was very conservative. And I've
mm,
noticed young girls coming from the same community today are in the same boat. And so I feel
mm,
extremely sad for them. And I wish, such classes would open up there where women can, feel free to express themselves with their body. Um, I used to be a language teacher, and so it offered me the liberty to move students, ask them to get up, get into groups, or
mm.
stand and talk to each other, or phone call each other, sit, against each other. And so that was all, it was fun, and they all did it. I tried it in my seminary classes. The first semester was fine. The second semester, I started feeling uncomfortable. I don't know.
Oh.
And I pulled back. I wanted to behave just like the others. So that's
Mm.
criticism I want to, place it in front. Um, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that you
Uh,
bring up that freedom of movement is constrained based on where we are, and that there may have to be really intentional work to create spaces in which we can feel free in our bodies, that they don't just necessarily come to us.
Thank you all so much for joining us for today's Joyful Body session. I just want to be conscious of the time. It's now quarter till. And so, Emily, I don't know if do you want to drop your email, or we can Google you if we have other
Like,
questions or want to stay in touch. But I want to thank Dr. Kahm for her lovely, lovely presentation that's, I'm sure, inspired lots of us to think creatively and outside that traditional box, and given me permission to do things a little bit differently in the classroom, which I really appreciate. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you over the next day and a half.
Thank you all so much. Go get some water, stretch out a little bit.